You're working harder than ever. The economy is supposedly growing at 4.3%, but your paycheck buys less and your job feels less secure. What if I told you that's not a bug in the system? That's exactly how the system is designed to work in 2026. I'm Tom, and this is Tom Thinks. I'm here to cut through the Wall Street jargon and give you the real talk on your money, even if it hurts your feelings a little bit. If you're someone who feels like you're running faster on the economic treadmill but getting nowhere, hit subscribe and give this video a thumbs up. The K-shaped reality. Look, here's the thing most people don't realize about 2026. We're not in an uncertain economy anymore. We're in what the big banks call an unstable economy. Now, what's the difference? Uncertainty means we don't know what's going to happen. Instability means the rules of the game are changing in real time, and they're changing differently for different people. This is what creates what economists call a K-shaped economy. Now imagine the letter K. One line goes up, the other goes down. That's exactly what's happening right now. On one side, you have corporate profits hitting record highs, the stock market climbing, and artificial intelligence creating billionaires overnight. On the other side, you have small businesses laying people off, wages struggling to keep up with inflation, and this feeling that no matter how hard you work, you're falling further behind. The Bureau of Economic Analysis just released data showing our economy grew at 4.3% in the third quarter of 2025. That sounds great, right? But here's what most people don't realize. That growth isn't being shared equally. It's concentrated. It's going to the people and companies who are already winning. That cognitive dissonance, that gap between what you're told and what you experience, that's the K-shaped economy in action. It's not that the data is wrong. It's that the average doesn't tell the whole story. When Jeff Bezos makes another $1 billion and 1,000 small business owners go bankrupt, the average might look okay, but the reality is two completely different Americas emerging. The debt we don't talk about. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. While we're all focused on our personal budgets and credit card debt, there's a much bigger debt story happening that affects every single one of us. According to the latest data from the Bureau of Economic Analysis, the United States has a negative $27.61 trillion net international investment position. Let me break that down in plain English. That means the world owns $27.61 trillion more of us than we own of them. Our liabilities to foreign investors stand at $68.89 trillion, while our assets abroad are only $41.27 trillion. Now, you might be thinking, Tom, that's just government debt stuff. What does that have to do with my paycheck? Here's the secret connection. When the world owns more of us, they get to call more of the shots. They get more of our corporate profits. They get more of our interest payments. And this creates a hidden tax on the American economy that shows up in your life as higher prices and lower wage growth. Think of it like this. If you had a roommate who owned 70% of your apartment, they get 70% of the rent money. Same principle here, but on a national scale. The trade deficit for October was $29.4 billion. Buying more from the world than we're selling to them. And here's the psychological impact. This constant outflow of wealth creates pressure on companies to cut costs. And what's the biggest cost for most companies? Labor, your salary, your benefits. This is why you see companies investing in automation instead of people. This is why you see the push for productivity over employment. It's not some evil conspiracy, it's the mathematical reality of owing the world $27 trillion. Every dollar that goes overseas to service this debt is a dollar that doesn't go into your raise, doesn't go into your community, doesn't go into building the future you want. The AI divide. Moving on to the elephant in the room, artificial intelligence. Now, I know what you're thinking, Tom. AI is creating all these new jobs and opportunities. And you're not wrong, but you're not seeing the full picture either. Here's what most people don't realize about AI in 2026. We're seeing what JP Morgan calls multidimensional polarization. The market is splitting between AI and non-AI sectors. The economy is splitting between companies investing in AI and those that aren't. And workers are splitting between those who can work with AI and those who get replaced by it. The research shows that small businesses with 20 to 49 employees have been seeing net job losses, while companies with more than 500 employees continue to hire aggressively. Why? Because the big companies can afford the AI investment. They can afford the data centers, the computing power, the specialized talent. The small businesses, they're getting squeezed from both sides, higher costs from tariffs and inflation, and now they have to compete with AI-powered giants. But here's where it gets really psychological. There's something called circular financing happening in the AI world. This is where AI companies invest in each other, creating this self-reinforcing loop that looks like growth but might just be money going in circles. One supplier invests in an AI company who then uses that money to buy the supplier's products. It creates the appearance of demand and growth, but it's really just capital circulating between a few connected players. And this creates what analysts are calling leapfrog effects. Early AI adopters get so far ahead that it becomes nearly impossible for others to catch up. Their AI gets better data, which makes their AI even better, which attracts more investment, and the gap widens. You as a worker or small business owner, this means the playing field isn't just uneven, it's becoming vertical. The ladder to success is getting pulled up faster than you can climb, and this creates a specific kind of anxiety that's unique to 2026. It's not just fear of losing your job, it's fear of becoming economically irrelevant in a world that's moving in a direction you can't even see. The inflation trap. Now let's talk about the thing that's probably keeping you up at night. Inflation. Here's the uncomfortable truth about inflation in 2026. It's not going back to 2%. The new normal is closer to 3%, and here's why that matters more than you think. First, let's look at the data. Inflation for what you need, groceries, housing, healthcare, has been running above inflation for what you want. Vacations, electronics, dining out, for 35 straight months. Your necessities are getting more expensive faster than your discretionary spending. This creates what economists call affordability pressure. Even if your wages go up a little, the things you can't live without are eating up more and more of your paycheck. But here's what's really sneaky. Tariffs have raised overall retail prices by nearly 5 percentage points. And tariffs aren't paid by other countries. They're taxes on American importers, which get passed on to you, the consumer. So, when you hear about trade policy, you're not just hearing about abstract economic concepts. You're hearing about why your Walmart bill is $20 higher than it was last year. Now, here's a psychological impact of 3% versus 2% inflation. At 2%, prices double every 36 years. At 3%, they double every 24 years. That's a 12-year acceleration in the erosion of your purchasing power. But wait, it gets worse. The Bureau of Labor Statistics, the agency that calculates inflation, has had its funding cut. As a result, 40% of the items in the Consumer Price Index are now estimated using statistical imputation rather than actual price collection. Translation, we're guessing about 40% of inflation data. This creates what I call inflation anxieties, this constant background worry that things are getting more expensive, but you can't even trust the official numbers. And this anxiety changes your behavior. You start hoarding when you see a good price. You delay big purchases. You become more risk-averse with your money. And all of this conservative behavior actually reinforces the economic divide because the people who can afford to take risks, the wealthy, keep getting wealthier while everyone else plays defense. The labor market mirage. To understand this better, let's look at the labor market, because this is where the K-shape becomes painfully personal. On the surface, the unemployment rate is still low, but dig deeper and you'll see something troubling. Initial jobless claims are low, which means not many people are getting laid off. But continuing jobless claims are rising, which means people who do lose their jobs are having trouble finding new ones. This divergence tells us that hiring has slowed to a crawl. Companies aren't laying people off in droves, but they're also not hiring in droves. They're frozen, waiting, uncertain. And here's the real kicker: immigration has slowed to a near halt. Fewer people entering the workforce means less competition for jobs, which should mean higher wages, right? That's what Economics 101 would tell you. But instead, we're seeing companies respond by investing in technology rather than people. I hire 10 workers when you can buy one AI system that does the work of 20. This creates what analysts are calling a vibration. Consumer sentiment is in the toilet even though the GDP numbers look okay. People feel worse about the economy than the data would suggest they should. And this feeling isn't irrational. It's based on lived experience. When 19 states raised their minimum wage, helping 8.3 million workers, that's good news. But when those raises get eaten up by inflation and companies respond by hiring fewer people or automating jobs, the net effect can feel like running in place. Now, here's what most people don't realize about the minimum wage increases. They create a compression effect. If the minimum wage goes from $10 to $15, what happens to the person who is making $15? Suddenly, they're making the same as entry-level workers. Their relative advantage disappears. This creates pressure for raises up the chain, which creates pressure on companies to cut costs elsewhere. And where do they cut? Benefits, hours, perks. The psychological impact is what economists call status anxiety. Even if you're making more money in absolute terms, if everyone below you is catching up, you don't feel like you're getting ahead. You feel like you're losing ground. And this feeling drives resentment, drives political polarization, and most importantly for your wallet, drives bad financial decisions made from a place of fear rather than calculation. Your 2026 playbook. So what do you do with all of this? How do you navigate a K-shaped economy where the rules keep changing? First, understand that diversification doesn't just mean different stocks anymore. It means different kinds of assets. With gold predicted to hit $5,000 an ounce by the end of 2026 and silver reaching $58, precious metals are becoming a hedge against the instability. More importantly, you need to diversify your skills. The AI divide means that technical skills that complement AI, data analysis, prompt engineering, system integration are becoming more valuable. But so are human skills that AI can't replicate. Creativity, empathy, complex problem solving. Second, recognize that volatility is the new normal. The market isn't just uncertain, it's unstable. ERR, missing narration content for visualization. It means having more cash on hand than you think you need because opportunities and emergencies both come without warning in an unstable economy. Third, and this is the most important psychological shift, stop comparing your journey to the averages. In a K-shaped economy, the average is meaningless. Your neighbor who works in AI might be getting 20% raises while your cousin in retail is getting hours cut. Both are true. Both are 2026. Focus on your personal inflation rate, not the national one. Track your own spending, your own savings rate, your own skill development. Here's your actionable step for today. Calculate your personal financial K-shape. List your assets that are likely to appreciate in this economy, skills, investments, relationships. List your liabilities that are likely to get worse, debts, outdated skills, inflexible expenses. Then make one change to improve that ratio. Maybe it's spending 1 hour a week learning about AI tools in your industry. Maybe it's moving some savings into inflation-protected assets. Maybe it's just having a brutally honest conversation with yourself about where you fit in this new economic reality. The wealth gap in 2026 isn't just about money, it's about adaptability. It's about recognizing that the economy isn't broken, it's working exactly as designed for a new era. Your job isn't to fix the system. Your job is to understand it well enough to build your own path through it. Because in a K-shaped world, waiting for the rising tide to lift all boats means watching from the dock while some yachts sail away and other boats sink. Build your own vessel, chart your own course, and remember, the gap isn't your fault, but bridging it is your responsibility.
Found this interesting? Subscribe to the channel. Give this video a like, share it out, and drop your questions or ideas in the comments. Until our next adventure.